Today on Resto Talk, we're going to go a little more in depth on spot welding since we had a few questions from our last episode. Our first question is, why do we cut the notches in the nozzle and how deep do we cut them? So, we take our nozzle, and the reason we cut the notches in here is because we have to let the shielding gas escape as we're welding. Our gas is 75% argon and 25% CO2. What the argon does is it shields and keeps the weld clean, and the CO2 creates the heat for the wire to penetrate the metal. Typically, you can take the grinder and you would grind the notches about a quarter, not quite a quarter-inch deep, and probably 3/16 wide. I'd like to show you the tip of what we started out with. As you can see, it's flat, and when you're doing normal welding, your tip is away from the metal, and so that gas comes out of there and shields the weld to keep it clean. So that's the start of it. That's what we ended up with. You don't have to grind the spot welds down. You do want to leave them like they are because that makes them look like an original spot weld on a car. Now, what we do before we spot weld, we take the two bare pieces of metal. 3M makes a weld-through primer. You would coat each end, each piece that gets put together like that. And for instance, you see a gap there, that's not good, that won't make a good spot weld. So you might have to hammer dolly. Right now that's a good fit. Now you can use a vice grips that will clamp tight, and you would spot weld there, and that gives you your tight fit and a good penetration. You can also use, depending on the space, if you're out of space, and then what you would have to do is clamp it on and then do your spot weld right next to the clamp. Then your next spot weld, you would have to move your vice grips and then do it again so that you keep the two pieces of metal tight. They have to be right next to each other. The weld-through primer will melt, if you will, in between the two. It's got a metal type of base in it, so the heat won't affect it, and when you weld it together, it'll protect the metal underneath. It won't burn through like regular paint. Our other question was, what is our heat settings and our wire speed? And that's a real hard question to answer because all machines are different, and some of them run a little hotter than others. So I would recommend, if you're new to welding, you're going to need to do some practicing. Whatever you're going to be welding, get yourself the same similar metals and set up your machine and practice on some scrap pieces before you do your actual finished piece of what you're going to have. And what you would do is you're going to spot weld it, and you're going to make sure that you have a heat, it's coming through and penetrating. You'll see heat, you'll see it blue in a circle. If it's too hot, it'll blow right through. If it's not hot enough, you'll take the two pieces of metal apart and they'll just fall apart. So it will take some practice. You do need to get to know your machine. Thanks for watching. If you like this video, hit the like button. If you want to see more Resto Talk, subscribe to the channel and also follow us on Facebook and Instagram.